Welcome to The Explainer. So look, if you've ever had to sit in a room and practically beg for a budget to upgrade a maintenance system, you know exactly how brutal that conversation can be. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating framework that takes those vague, pie-in-the-sky marketing promises and transforms them into a mathematically defensible CMMS, or Computerized Maintenance Management System, ROI model. We're going to see exactly how this source tears down all the fluff and rebuilds a business case so it's absolutely bulletproof. Right, so we've all seen this cliché vendor promise, haven't we? Guaranteed 30% ROI in month one. It flashes up there on the screen, and sure, it sounds incredibly exciting in a sales pitch, but it usually comes with a massive dose of skepticism from anyone who actually holds the purse strings.
It really makes you wonder, why do finance directors just roll their eyes and instantly reject this stuff? Well, the truth is, a CFO doesn't need to be a maintenance engineer to spot numbers that completely lack sourced assumptions or any kind of conservative bias. I mean, if you claim a massive return without showing exactly where the math comes from, you literally lose credibility right then and there. They're looking for reality, not marketing magic.
So here is the roadmap to actually fix that. We're going to start with the credibility gap, then move into the 6 essential model inputs. Explore the 3 streams of savings, do a quick implementation reality check, and finally look at building a defensible case. This methodical rebuild is going to equip you with a bulletproof methodology for your next budget approval.
Okay, part 1, the credibility gap. Let's move past the vendor math. The ultimate goal here is to build a business case that survives the absolute highest level of financial scrutiny, and that requires a fundamental shift in your mindset. On one side, we have estimated guesses, those shiny optimistic marketing multipliers. But on the other side, we have logged ERP and ledger data, defensible metrics. Being purposefully conservative and using real, historical ledger data is actually your superpower in the boardroom. It shifts the entire conversation from a sales pitch to a grounded, undeniable financial analysis. Moving right along to Section 2, the 6 essential model inputs. And the best part is, this is data you probably already have.
A credible CMMS ROI doesn't require any complex calculus, I promise. It relies on 6 specific numbers you likely already have on file in your own systems right now. Think of these as the absolute bedrock of your calculation. First, track down your annual maintenance cost. That's just your total spend from the last fiscal year. Second, find your unplanned downtime hours, and these absolutely must be logged stoppages, not guesses. Third is your cost per downtime hour, representing your lost production margin. Fourth, you need your technician headcount and their fully loaded hourly cost. Fifth is the initial CMMS investment, so license plus implementation. And finally, the annual support, which is calculated at a fixed 18% of that initial investment going forward. These 6 logged metrics ground your entire proposal in reality.
Now, speaking of that cost per downtime hour, brace yourselves for this one. Unplanned downtime in large manufacturing operations can run as high as $260,000 per hour. That is wild. Now, while most of our plants thankfully sit well below that terrifying ceiling, it proves a really vital point. The true cost of lost production margin is almost always vastly underestimated by maintenance teams. All right, let's get into the good stuff. Section 3, 3 streams of savings. This is the teardown and rebuild phase. When we're calculating our first stream, which is downtime reduction, the source recommends a really interesting strategy. So, independent benchmarking by the Aberdeen Group shows a massive 27% average downtime reduction for organizations using a CMMS. But to keep things totally realistic, we intentionally slashed that benchmark down to a highly conservative 18%. We do this because most facilities already have some kind of preventative maintenance in place, right? So we really don't want to overpromise the gap closure. So the defensible formula for this first saving stream is actually super straightforward. Just take your logged, unplanned downtime hours, multiply them by your cost per hour, and then multiply that by our intentionally discounted 18% rate. There's no fluff here, just a hard, mathematically conservative calculation. Now, our second saving stream is the reactive to planned labor shift. Research from McKinsey & Company consistently points out that implementing actual planning discipline reduces total corrective work orders by 10 to 20%. It basically shifts roughly 20% of your current maintenance cost away from, emergency response waste, rush part orders, and unnecessary overtime. You are literally converting chaotic, expensive emergencies into scheduled, highly efficient work.
For our third saving stream, technician productivity, we again see a raw industry average that we absolutely need to adjust. Deloitte's Smart Factory research documents a maximum 20% productivity gain when you finally centralize your work orders and asset history. But to keep our model defensible, we strictly discount this down to an 8% pure wrench time recovery rate. We are only counting the physical time technicians get back from not running around chasing paperwork or digging through a messy storeroom searching for parts.
To calculate this one, you just take your technician headcount and their fully loaded hourly cost, multiply that by their annual working hours, and multiply by that conservative 8% recovery rate. This illustrates perfectly how recovering lost administrative time translates to hard cash, and crucially, it does this without requiring you to reduce your actual headcount. Which brings us to Section 4, the implementation reality check. Let's talk about the adoption curve. Look, expecting a 100% ROI on day one is the absolute fastest way to lose all credibility with your finance team. If a vendor tells you a CMMS delivers full benefits in month 1, they have clearly never implemented one in the real world. In reality, months 1 through 6 are dedicated purely to data cleansing and your initial PM rollout. Months 6 through 12, that's all about the user adoption curve, actually getting your team to build the right habits. It's really only in that 12 to 18-month window that you enter the mature program payback phase. Because of that exact timeline, in our defensible model, year 1 output is deliberately capped. We only claim 50% of the projected steady-state savings in year 1. The other 50%, we defer that for the maturity ramp-up. Doing this shows your finance team that you actually understand the reality and the friction of operational change.
And yeah, the long-term potential is absolutely massive. The U.S. Department of Energy reports an incredible 10-to-1, sometimes up to 30-to-1 ROI, with breakdown eliminations of 70 to 75% for mature programs. But remember, we treat these massive figures as a future upper bound, not a year 1 target. It's the goal you build towards, not what you promise out of the gate.
All right, Section 5, building a defensible case. Let's look at some real-world applications. To actually apply these discounted benchmarks accurately to your real-world environments, the source lays out a few crucial rules you have to follow. First, treat your output as a starting point and make sure to validate it after your first 2 quarters of actual live data. Second, absolutely exclude scheduled PM windows from your unplanned downtime inputs. That's a common mistake. Third, if you have multiple facilities, run this ROI plant by plant, not as a single giant blend. A blended number completely masks which specific sites actually justify a priority rollout. And finally, you can expect faster payback in heavy process industries, but you should anticipate a longer payback if your specific facility has low headcount or pretty modest downtime exposure.
And to execute this whole structured approach, the source highlights platforms like ManWinWin, positioning it as a really solid system that bridges the gap between those super lightweight SaaS tools and the heavy, expensive enterprise suites. Basically, built specifically for this kind of ROI-driven approach.
So I want to leave you with this final kind of provocative thought. Could you pull your plant's exact logged downtime and maintenance cost data for the last fiscal year, like right this second? Because if the answer to that is no, you really need to fix your data tracking before you ever walk into a boardroom to request capital. Start measuring, apply this defensible model, and you'll absolutely get the system you need. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.